I betrayed my loyal husband, Daniel, and ultimately married Ethan, the man I had an affair with. I thought I had left the past behind, but years later, fate had a cruel surprise waiting for me. My dearest friend Sarah became Daniel's wife. Daniel and I officially ended things in 2019, a decision that at the time felt necessary. In the early months of the pandemic, Daniel uncovered my relationship with Ethan, who worked as a bartender nearby. When he confronted me, I confessed everything, admitting that my feelings for him had faded and I wanted to move on. To his credit, Daniel remained composed. Our divorce was smooth, free from ugly arguments or courtroom battles. We parted ways with quiet acceptance. Daniel moved to a small town 2 hours away, starting a new job and working towards his PhD, while I stayed behind with Ethan. Eventually, Ethan and I married. Daniel and I agreed to keep things respectful from a distance. I made an effort to stay cordial, sending birthday wishes, holiday cards, even a congratulatory gift when he earned his doctorate. But I never received a response, not even once. Confused me. Daniel had always been someone who never forgot a thank you note, who went out of his way to show appreciation. My parents and even his brother received handwritten letters from him, but I was met with silence. I convinced myself he just needed more time and shifted my focus to building my life with Ethan. Ethan had 2 children from a previous marriage, and with a baby on the way, life became a hectic whirlwind of responsibilities. Meanwhile, Sarah, my best friend since college, lived in Daniel's town. She was a brilliant attorney and taught law classes part-time. Ours was the kind of friendship that could survive long gaps in communication. When we reconnected, it was always effortless. When our chats started to dwindle, I thought little of it. Her last message in early 2022 mentioned she was overwhelmed with work, and I assumed she was caught up in another new relationship, as she often disappeared during those stages. I figured we would catch up eventually. That summer, Ethan and I made a trip to the city where Daniel and Sarah lived. I reached out to Sarah, hoping for a quick coffee date, but she never responded. Disappointed but not overly surprised, I spent time with other friends. Then, that November, I attended a Thanksgiving gathering hosted by an old college acquaintance. Sarah was there, standing elegantly by the fireplace, drink in hand. When I approached her, she gave me an awkward hug, barely meeting my eyes. "I tried to see you this summer," I said casually. She paused before answering. "I was on my honeymoon. Sorry I didn't respond." Blinked stunned. "Honeymoon? You got married?" She nodded, her face unreadable. "You didn't even mention you were seeing anyone," I said, confused. That's when she dropped the bombshell. "I married Daniel." For a moment I couldn't breathe. The world seemed to tilt as her words sank in. "What?" I managed to say, but she quickly cut me off. "You don't have a right to be upset," she said sharply. "You destroyed him. We didn't even start talking until long after your divorce. You threw him away for a guy you barely knew." Her words stung more than I could bear. That weekend, I drank too much trying to numb the heartbreak. I couldn't stop thinking about the irony, that my best friend had married the man I once promised forever to. The man I betrayed. The man I still thought about far more than I was willing to admit. When I returned home, I felt like a stranger in my own life. I became detached from Ethan, short-tempered with his kids. I found myself scrolling through old photos of Daniel. His soft smile, the way he used to pull me close after a long day, his forgiving nature, and the emptiness in his eyes when forgiveness ran out. Weeks of silent resentment built up until Ethan confronted me. Our argument exploded into a brutal fight. I blurted out the truth about Daniel and Sarah's marriage. How much it hurt me. Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "I've known for months," he said. "They post about it all the time. You just didn't want to see it." Hearing that made my blood boil. I was furious he hadn't told me. Furious at myself for being blindsided. Furious that I still cared so much. "You still love him," Ethan said coldly. "I don't," I snapped back, but he shook his head. "If you didn't, this wouldn't tear you apart like it is." We fought for hours until sheer exhaustion forced us into silence. The next morning I packed a bag and stayed with my sister for a few days to clear my head. When I returned, nothing had changed. Another fight erupted. Ethan accused me of being emotionally unfaithful. "You're acting like you lost your whole world," he said bitterly. In a rage I said cruel things, accusing him of being shallow, incapable of deep connections. I regretted it immediately, but the words were out there, poisoning the air between us. That night, lying alone in bed, I finally faced the truth. I had sacrificed something deep and rare for a fleeting spark. I thought passion would fulfill me, but all it left was emptiness. Sarah had taken over the life I abandoned, the life with a man who wrote me love notes, who read next to me every night, who kissed my forehead before heading to work. The man I once promised to stand beside forever. Sarah didn't reach out because she no longer belonged to my life. She was part of Daniel's world now, the world I had so carelessly left behind. I had built something new, but its cracks were impossible to ignore. Karma didn't come crashing into my life with drama and fury. It came quietly, a gnawing emptiness, a slow erasure by the very people I once loved most. I longed for answers, for some kind of closure, but all that remained was the cold, brutal truth. Some mistakes you can never undo.